Hi, everybody, and welcome to Luci Talks SL. I'm here with a special guest, Zarrakan Yue, and she is going to tell us all about her story. We're very excited to hear it. Your story was very inspirational, how you've overcome your obstacles to be the person you were meant to be. Are you willing to share some of that with us today?
Yes. I'll be reading directly from my transition guide for some of these questions. So for those of you who want to know more at the end of this interview, please go to Zarrakan.com. That's Zebra, Apple, Richard, Apple, King, Apple, Nancy.com, essentially my first name, Zarrakan.com, where you will find plenty of transgender resources, including Zarrakan Yue's Transition Guide and the Transgender Education Panel, 3 Paths of Transitioning. Both are living documents, which I update regularly. But now, on to my story. I am Zarrakan Yue Carvin, a post-op demisexual transgender woman who has been on hormone replacement therapy since 2019, June 22nd, had sexual reassignment surgery, penile inversion vaginoplasty, on 2021, February 17th, had breast augmentation surgery on 2021, December 6th, and I'll be getting voice surgery on July 14th, next month. First, a few details about myself. What is a demisexual? Well, demisexuals are on the still interested in having sex end of the asexual spectrum, but do not experience physical attraction or repulsion, and only experience sexual attraction to people they have developed an emotional bond with. Transgender is a medical condition, not a sexual orientation. My sexual orientation is demisexual, because transgender people do have sexual orientations, but transgender itself is a medical condition that is literally brain in wrong body, or intersex brain, where a brain is in a body that does not match its sex. Being trapped in a body that is not yours can be extremely toxic to a person's well-being, and most transgender individuals will transition their bodies to the sex that matches their brains to decrease dysphoria. This is commonly done through dress, hormone replacement therapy, and various surgeries to alter their bodies to better reflect their brain sex. Earliest treatment possible is needed for best outcome, as being transgender is lifelong, has no cure, and can be fatal as it doubles a person's chance of attempting suicide compared to the cisgender population, because it is a continuous, inescapable traumatic event. And as for me, it almost killed me. I was born on 1976, September 19th, and I've known I'm a woman since at least 8 years old, but would have trouble communicating it, as transgender was not part of my vocabulary until my early 40s. I wrote a letter to my mom when I was 12 to describe how I felt, but she was not supportive, and the counseling I was getting at the time was completely useless, as my dysphoria was misdiagnosed as depression. I never got the treatment I needed, and rarely brought it up again, as I was too scared to confide in anyone, but would continue to explore my true identity in secret through escapism, dreams, literature, video games, writing, etc. So, no treatment. I sank into despair once the body horror of an unwanted male puberty began, and my first suicide attempt involved an overdose of aspirin, Durvan, Saldane, and any other pills I could find while my parents were asleep, because I planned this out. It was not a call for attention. I wanted to die. I made sure no one could help me when I took all those pills. I just planned on going to bed and not waking back up. So I went back to bed and planned on never waking up again, but I survived despite being so severely dehydrated that my skin was peeling off my face. Like, if you know what a dogwood tree is, I think they're mostly up in the north. That's the only place I've seen them, but it's essentially a tree that has bark that can peel off like paper. That's what my face was doing. I burnt myself from the inside out with what I did.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know how I survived that, but I did. I woke up the following morning,
Wow.
toasty. And ever since then, I've had an odd immunity to a variety of medications since then that has greatly limited to my options to recover from illness. And it's bad.
Right.
Thankfully, I wasn't in pain from my surgeries when they gave me, but they gave me oxytocin, which is supposed to be a really addictive, really potent painkiller, did nothing for me. Did nothing. I took the whole bottle, nothing. And there's a lot of stuff like that that's been like that ever since. So I have Equate NyQuil at home because pretty much if I get sick, that's the only thing that works. Not allergy pills, not, you know, sometimes not even other brands of NyQuil, just Equate NyQuil. So I've been using that for well over 20 years as the only way I can get over being sick because nothing else works ever since then. So I was inflicted with the body horror of an unwanted male puberty, and literally body horror. It's a genre you can look up so if you want examples of what that's like, but in real life. I became the silent kid due to my deepened dysphoric voice. Facial hair made me hate my reflection, and body hair caused me to start cutting my flesh with my fingernails. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I'm not allowed to have fingernails even today. It's gotten a lot better since I began my transitioning and got my surgeries, but it's still a thing where I can't have fingernails because I'll just cut myself to ribbons with them. There was a recent time that my wife and I went to People's Clinic to see the doctor, and it was a brief visit, so I didn't really bother dressing up. I was wearing one of my dress shirts that I commonly wear around the house, my maid uniform, if you will. And I was just sitting there while she was talking to the doctor, and I noticed like a hair on my leg. And, this is how bad my body hair dysphoria is. I don't care if other people are hairy as bears. It doesn't bother me a bit. But I saw a hair on my leg that no one else could see, except me, of course, because I have it bad. And I just sat there while they were talking, trying to pick this one hair out of my leg. And it used to be so bad to the point where I don't do this anymore, thankfully. But I would like tweezer my breasts to get hairs off of it to the point where I would be gouging my flesh and it would get infected and abscess and like, yeah. But back then, I tried to use a cheap home electrolysis kit on my face, and when that didn't work, I resorted to pulling all the hairs out with tweezers. So, tweezers.
Right, that must have taken forever.
Yeah, it did, but I did because I hated I hated facial hair.
Right.
I love the finished result, but it eventually grew back, and until recently, I did my best with razors and looking in mirrors as little as possible. I despised everything about how I looked and began avoiding the creation of photos, videos of myself, leading to decades of my life being undocumented. I've filmed stuff and taken pictures of myself of stuff, but I've never been in the videos and pictures. So, like between my teenage years and like just recently, there's decades of my life that have gone undocumented where I simply do not have any pictures or video of myself at all. In fact, with a lot of the selfies that I've been taking now that I've am transitioning, but transitioned enough that I'm comfortable to be in front of the camera, I've taken more pictures and video of myself in the last 3 years than the last 30.
Wow.
So, male weight gain was also awful. And though I'm 5'5" and was only 180 pounds at the time, I hated not being smaller and thinner. In fact, if I could, I'd be my mom's height. My mom is like 4 foot something. She is adorable. And I would love to be that height, but I'm taller, unfortunately. So I did what any desperate transgender woman with no help would do. I starved myself, exercised fanatically, and was almost crippled by doing around 600 weighted sit-ups a day. What I would do is I had these weights you would fasten usually to your ankles, being put on your arms too, sand weights, I guess. and put like 20. It was either 20 pounds total or 20 pounds an arm. But anyway, I put these things on my arm, between 20 to 40 pounds. I would put it behind my head, and I would have one of those door sit-up bars, and I would just pump them out. Just like 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600.
Holy
That
cow.
kind of insanity. And it worked. My willpower is the finest titanium steel once I have truly set my mind to a task, and I kept it up for a full year to become as small and rock hard as I could while dropping down to 130 pounds. I was a sexy little girly person that everyone thought was gay, but I was trying my best to feminize the body I was trapped in until my back blew out. Which, if you're with that kind of obsessive exercising, I now know that I was just destroying my body with that. The pain I experienced is difficult to describe, but imagine being on fire from the inside out and having no reprieve from it, aside from eventually crying yourself to sleep. I recovered, but was no longer able to do sit-ups without risking further injury, and my dysphoria worsened as male weight gain resumed. Combine that with an uncertain future after graduating high school, and I believed I had nothing to look forward to except a dubiously useful college education. It seemed like the only thing that made my family happy was getting good grades, and it was important to me to please them. Before succumbing to the numb routine of higher education, I decided to attempt suicide again. And yeah, I was never like beaten when I was young, but there was a lot of neglect, and there was a lot of there was a lot of abuse in terms of gaslighting. Everything I thought was stupid, everything I want was dumb. I was a very creative young girl, but none of that was really encouraged. My mom, to this day, cares about her dogs more than me. She has tattoos of her dogs on her, but none of me. For the most part, I think I was treated like a goldfish. Sprinkle some food in there, give this person some things for entertainment, and check in every once in a while to make sure they're still alive. Treated like a goldfish.
Right.
So wasn't beaten, but it was abusive in other ways. So my second suicide attempt, I went with some friends to a quarry lake and jumped off a cliff into the lake. It sounds like a fun outing, but that was not all what I intended. I'm not very athletic. I can't swim, still can't swim, and I'm not comfortable around great heights, even in video games. Now, the not able to swim part of that is just I never learned, but also part of that is I can't close my mouth when I'm doing vigorous activity. Most people have 4 sinuses. You have 2. You have 2 above your eyes, like one above the left and one above the right, and below the eyes you have maxillary ones. So you have 4. Most people have 4 sinuses total. I have 1. So if I need to get oxygen into my lungs quickly, the only way I'm doing that is I can't do it through my nose. I have to open my mouth. So, yeah, great setup to drown yourself. I thought this would surely be the end of me, as the cliff was slanted backwards and over 100 feet up, which is like hitting a soft brick wall at that height. There was every chance I'd get mushed on the rock face on the way down, break my neck on the water upon impact, impale or smash myself on something in the water, or just drown. None of that happened, but I did hit face first, and I never went to a doctor about this, but I'm pretty sure that I got some kind of hairline fracture or some other kind of stressor because of what happened next after this. But so I hit face first, like all 180 pounds of my body onto my neck when my face hit the water.
Ouch.
And after lizard brain survival instincts took over, I somehow managed to find the water surface, which it was not clear water. This was a quarry lake, so you can't see the bottom, and when you're underwater, you can't see the top either. But I found the surface, and I splashed my way to shore. I had a camera with me at the time, and told one of my friends to take a picture as I jumped over the edge. They could show it to the cops as proof that I killed myself, or I would have a souvenir if I didn't, but I didn't walk away unscathed. This suicide attempt aggravated my prior back injury and would cause painful random full-length spinal muscular seizures for the next 5 years and permanently reduced my safe lifting capacity to 50 pounds. And these seizures would happen at random. There were times when I would just wake up for the day in a lot of pain. Sneezing, coughing could set it off. Having clothes, too tight around my waist could set it off. Not sitting properly could set it off. And like I said, sometimes it just go off at random. For the next 5 years, I had to deal with that. And, I still deal with that injury that I got back when I was 18. I have to be careful about lifting things. I'm limited to about 50 pounds before, I could end up on a heating pad later on trying to deal with the pain. 1995 to 2007 was a blur of full-time call center work, college, and too much caffeine, way too much. I was born with asthma and have been on stimulants to increase my breathing capacity almost since birth. If we're being honest and using role-playing game metaphors, the closest representation of my relationship to caffeine would be Palladium Books juicers, who are super soldiers powered by drugs. It makes me harder, better, faster, stronger. Work it. Daft Punk.
Yeah.
That's a Daft Punk reference.
Great song.
And able to work it, even when I don't feel like it. And that was the most important aspect, too, since it's so much easier to cope with being transgender when you don't feel anything because you're blasted out of your mind on crank. So it was drug abuse. I was abusing a drug, and cognizantly. For my entire college career, I started my day with a 250 milligram caffeine Stacker 2 pill and chased it with various other sources of caffeine throughout the day, every day, from 1995 until 2007, with my daily dosage somewhere between 600 to 1,000 milligrams. Now, I say 2007, that's when I stopped taking Stacker. That doesn't mean I stopped doing 600 to 1,000 milligrams. I just replaced Stacker with something else. Funnily enough, I got my master's degree in counseling psychology during that time, and cannot remember a single instance that transgender or anything that sounded like it was mentioned. I continued to suffer without hope of ever escaping the prison of my male body, but gained some solace in the virtual world of Second Life. And, we went over, like sexual orientation. That was a thing that we discussed, like, gay, lesbian, bisexual, and I think that was it. We may or may not have dabbled on asexual, but at no point was transgender even mentioned, or transsexual even mentioned, for that matter, which is, the prior word that used to be used for transgender people, to my memory, ever. It would have helped, definitely. Zarrakan Yue's Res Day, this avatar you see right here, the kitty with the tits, was 2006, December 27th. Has always been a female avatar and has changed very little in appearance since then, so I've always been a kitty. You learn to disassociate to survive the pain of dysphoria, and I would spend 40 plus hours a week living vicariously through her as my main means of coping with being a transgender woman. She is the ideal me, and I've experienced as much as I could with her as I would have in real life if I had the chance to be born in a female body. But I would never use my real voice with her. I hate my real voice, the one I'm using right now, and having it come from her lips felt grotesque, and the silence brought on by puberty, taking my voice away, continued. This felt natural to me, the most right that I've ever felt, but returning to reality was painful as who and what I was began to sink in again as I and Second Life aged. I gave in to despair because if I can't be Zarrakan Yue, then I don't want to be. And I allowed my body to succumb to the slow death of overeating until that fateful day on 2017, May 11th, when I almost got my wish to die. And when I say living vicariously, I was doing a ton of work in art preservation in Second Life. That began, I think, around 2008 is when I started taking pictures. I would take video later on. But, I would go to all these amazing places, and they would be there for a time, and then they would just disappear. And I wanted to share this with people. Hey, look at these wonderful places I've been to. Kind of like when you go to Disneyland and you take pictures and video of your trip there and you share them with your friends and family. Same concept, but more poignant because, these are things that are there maybe once and never again. You'll get a lot of chances to go to Disneyland. A lot of the things that I've captured in, photos and video, they're gone forever.
Right.
And if you weren't there to see it the first time, the only thing you'll have now is, the pictures and video that people like me do and, post on the internet or to YouTube. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of us. So a lot of that stuff never gets preserved. And I've done my best. I have easily over 5,000 videos. I quit counting at one point because, 5,000 is a pretty nice round number. But in addition to my work with art, I've also filmed an entire year of GOHA, the Global Online Hockey Association. I'm not sure if they're having any games anymore. I don't think they are, but back in 2014, I filmed an entire year of their games, and they usually had like, 4 or 5 games a week, something like that. Now they would have some games over in this arena, and they'd go across the street into the other one. I'd film both of them. I've also filmed car racing for a time. I've filmed talk shows. I've filmed a ton of Second Life wrestling. I first started filming VWE, but then I would branch off into some of the other wrestling federations. Currently, I film WPWF, but there was a time that I was, in addition to my 40-hour-a-week, real-life job, I was filming 26 hours a week of wrestling. And that's just the filming. That's just showing up to the shows and turning the camera on.
Right.
Not including the editing and posting and so forth. Mm-hmm. So I was filming a lot of content. And part of that is, that's a passion of mine. But also part of that is that it was me trying to escape from the reality of being trapped in a body at the time that was very much male. Female brain, male body doesn't mix that great. Very painful. So I was using Second Life as escapism. This avatar that you see before you, I still regard as my body in Second Life, but back then it was my body, like projecting yourself into your avatar, because that is your body, your ideal self. And it all came crashing down on 2017, May 11th. I checked into American Family Care, Madison Street Commons, with congestive heart failure, blood pressure of 250 over 120, and a weight of 368. Because when you hate your body, you hate the prison you're trapped in, then you don't take care of it, because fuck this prison. Fuck this body. I hate this. I want to
Right.
die. That's what I mean by being transgender is a leading comorbid cause of other health problems. Uh, Drug abuse, definitely have that with the caffeine. Overeating, definitely have that. For other people, it could be, more severe drugs, risky behavior, suicide attempts like my own, cutting like my own. Um, it it's pain. It's painful to be a transgender person. It's really painful to be a transgender person who is not undergoing gender affirming treatment. Still is painful even when you've reached the state that I'm at. Dysphoria doesn't go away. It's a lifelong thing because the medical condition is a lifelong thing. So the pain is still there, but when you're not getting any treatment at all, then things are really bad. So I was dying. I was in severe pain. Lifting my arms above my head for more than a few minutes made me dizzy, and I could barely walk more than a few feet before becoming winded. Like, I couldn't make it through the length of my house without taking breaks. And trying to make it up to the mailbox to get the mail was a journey. The x-ray tech thankfully broke protocol and let me know that I had fluid on the lungs instead of letting the doctor advise me. And I put doctor in quotation marks because what he did, the doctor, quotation marks, refused to treat me due to my high blood pressure and referred me to the local emergency room as I was in danger of immediate heart attack. So he didn't even want to deal with me. It's like, you're a bit much. Go away. So this suicide attempt was working, and all I had to do was wait for death, as I may have had only weeks or days left to live in my current state. But my love for my wife pulled me back from the brink because she was unemployed at the time, and I was the only income earner. So if I died, she would, in very short order, become homeless. And there's no telling what would happen after that. It wouldn't be good because she's not in the best of health either at that time, still isn't. I couldn't bear the thought of what would happen to her after I was gone, and I decided to live for her at least for now. But I could not continue living a lie. I am a transgender woman, and I need to make a real effort to get treatment for my medical condition because no amount of escapism is going to fix it. But no one else is going to save me either because no one ever had. Not my mom, not any doctors, not any of the rest of the family, friends, no one. No one had ever tried to save me from this. So if there was going to be anyone who was going to save me, it had to be me. Which is one of the reasons why in my guide, in my Zarrakan Yue transition guide, go read it, I recommend transgender people adopt self-advocacy in cooperation with other people, but self-advocacy is the way to go because you need to be your own superhero. You need to be your own savior. Because if you don't, you end up going through all the stuff I went through. So my wife and I went to Walgreens to pick up over-the-counter blood pressure medication, and I made an appointment for People's Clinic the following week, and I began working to become who I truly was. My recovery was slow and torturous, as the suicide attempt had done the most damage out of the three. I have heavy scarring from weeping edema, and what weeping edema means is that your blood pressure is so high that you're bleeding plasma through your skin.
Oh, wow.
It's bleeding through your skin at that point. So I have heavy scarring from weeping edema that at one time put me at risk of needing to amputate my lower legs, was at risk of kidney failure, and was frequently in too much pain to move without using a creeper seat or crutches. And The weeping edema, I guess it was really acidic, which plays into the whole kidney failure thing, because it was not only was I the not only was I having weeping edema, but the weeping edema would literally melt the skin off of my legs. It was that bad. And there's actually a video of it when I did a demo of Allocaine, and it's a grainy, shitty video, but you can see the edema, like leaking out of my leg and like melting the flesh.
Ooh.
So it was really nasty.
Sounds like it.
A creeper seat. What that is, it's what mechanics use to slide themselves under cars, or get into a sitting position so they're not bending over a lot.
Right. Okay.
And of course, crutches are crutches. But what would happen is that during my recovery, there would be sometimes I would wake up broken, like I was in too much pain to walk. So I had to scoot around the house on this creeper seat or hobble around on crutches. And, it would vary. Sometimes I would hurt too bad to sit on the creeper seat, so I'd have to use crutches. And of course, that's putting weight on my upper body. So, at times I couldn't use the crutches, so I had to use the creeper seat. And, there were times I would fall, and in the condition I was in, I could not get up on my own. If I fell on the floor, that's where I live. I live on the floor now. And, Aline, my wife, would have to help me back up because I couldn't do it on my own. Sleeping was perilous, as I was in danger of dying from aspirating undigested food into my lungs if I lied in a bed normally. And at first I could only sleep sitting on a bench with my head on a pillow on my desk. And Shai, my adopted Second Life daughter, her brother died that way. What happens is while you're asleep, your stomach convulses or something. Something happens that shouldn't happen, but happens because of your blood pressure and how bad your health is. So your stomach empties its contents into your lungs, and you drown in your own vomit. Essentially, that's what aspirating undigested food means.
Right. Wow.
Gradually, I would be able to shift to sleeping sitting on the couch, sitting because I can't lay down without risking dying, and eventually back to my bed over the course of the next 60 days, during which I had bought a treadmill on 2017, June 8th, and I still have that treadmill. I use it every day in the morning. At first, I could barely manage 5 minutes at a time at 0.4 miles per hour, which is nothing. That's barely even a shuffle. With no incline, which is its lowest setting, but I would gradually build up to 30 minutes at 4.0 miles per hour with 1 inch incline daily over the next couple of years, which is where I'm at now. Even with my renewed interest in living, I still could have died from a heart attack during most of my recovery, as the damage to my cardiovascular system is permanent and has likely shortened my lifespan. So I do daily treadmill. I don't do it to lose weight. On treadmill, I only burn like 200 calories, so it's really not that much. But I do it because if I don't, there's every possibility I could rapidly slide back into cardiovascular failure again and have a heart attack and die. So, permanent damage has consequences they have to deal with. So that's one of the consequences of that last suicide attempt. I have to keep that up, or I could just, die from a heart attack. Even with my renewed interest in living, I could have died from a heart attack. During most of my recovery, as damage to my cardiovascular system is permanent and likely shortened my lifespan. I had a lot of time to think as I fought my way back to health and realized what truly mattered to me. I may not know what the end of my rainbow will look like or if anyone will be there with me, but I will no longer pretend to be a man to make others happy. On 2019, June 22nd, 31 long, miserable years after trying to talk to my mom about being a woman, I began my journey to be myself by taking my first dose of hormone replacement therapy and told my second life ex-husband I was a demisexual transgender woman. Ego Imperium. I do have a second life ex-husband. His name is Dr. Haiku. He's actually one of the moderators over at my Discord for Zarrakan Productions. And we are together for about 2 years, about around 2011. And we were a couple. And there's been a lot of things like that should have given me a clue, but it didn't really click until I finally got a hold of the word transgender. Oh, that's what I am. That's why I've always wanted to be a woman. That's why when I was 8 years old, I was praying to God to let me wake up as a woman the following day. That's why I do all these things that don't make sense, but, you know. And there's a lot of that. So, I mean, if I had gotten help early in life, I would have transitioned decades ago. But by 2021, December 6th, I have accomplished almost everything I wanted to since my transition began on 2019, 6/22. I went from 368 pounds to 177 for a total of loss of 191 pounds. And I'm now in the best physical health I've been since high school, but doing both treadmill 30 minutes at 4 miles per hour with 1-inch incline and Fitlea fitness ab machine at 100 repetitions daily. And that was by December 6th. I actually weigh 208 now, because when you're the cook of the family and you like food.
Right.
Also, I mean, to be fair, I do think that I've put on some muscle mass, because it used to be I was only able to do like 35 ab crunches on the ab cruncher, but before being blown out and have to take a rest before I start up again. But now I can just whip out 75, and I usually do about 100 to 115 of those a day with no issue. And the treadmill, that's even less of an exertion for me. So I do think, to be fair to myself, that some of that poundage I've gained is actually muscle, but I'm still trying to make it a goal to get down to 135. That's still a goal. So I have been successfully managing my hormone replacement therapy with People's Clinic's help, and the mental and physical changes have been significantly positive. So I'm no longer having thoughts of suicidal ideation. So I'm far less of a suicide risk than I ever was before. Dysphoria still kicks my ass from time to time, but being transgender is a lifelong medical condition, so that's not going to go away. But the further along in your transition, it becomes easier and easier to cope with. So there will always be pain, but it gets better the more treatment you go through. I had sexual reassignment surgery, penile inversion vaginoplasty, on 2021, February 17th, and that helped to both stabilize my hormone replacement therapy by allowing me to discontinue my anti-androgens, which I was taking deuterosteroid and spirolactone at the time. Deuterosteroid is a inhibitor and spirolactone is a blocker, and eliminate a growing source of dysphoria. Losing weight made my penis and testicles more visible. Breast augmentation surgery on 2021, December 6th, has helped to give me a more feminine figure and reduce my body hair dysphoria so that I am no longer cutting myself with my fingernails. I still, as I mentioned, have some issues where if I see a hair, it'll bug the shit out of me until I do something about it. So that's still a thing, but I'm not actively cutting into myself on a daily basis like I used to, cutting and gouging into myself. It's actually gotten to the point where I can kind of go 4 or 5 days before I need to epilate my entire body, like use an epilator on my entire body. Prior to that, like at the beginning of my transition, it was like every other day I would have to do that. But I've gotten better in regards to that too. I still can't have fingernails though. That my fingernails are very sharp. It runs in the family on my dad's side. My dad has it. My grandfather had it. I can accidentally cut myself open on accident. It's happened, and I have scars from it all over my body from accidents and anxiety and dysphoria. So, not allowed to have fingernails ever. um, the identity documents path of my transition is complete, as I am now Zarrakan Yue Carvin and female across all identity documents. I have a wonderful boyfriend who lives with me, along with my wife, allows me to be my overly affectionate self. My caffeine consumption has been significantly reduced since 2021, June 15th, with improved hormone blood test results, easier weight loss, and better sleep. Voice surgery is my last task to accomplish before I can feel complete, and I plan to get that on 2022, July 14th, so in less than 30 days. I have proved that I am power, and Ego Imperium is not just a slogan, but something I live by.
Wow. Well, your story, like I mentioned before, is incredibly inspirational, and it's just amazing how you've overcome so much to be who you are right now here with us. We did talk a lot about suicide today, and if you or anyone you know is thinking about doing anything to harm yourself, please remember that there is help out there, and if you don't feel like you can reach out to people that you are close to, in the United States, you can go to suicidepreventionlifeline.org or call 1-800-273-8255. And there's also the international suicide hotlines listed at blog.opencounseling.com/suicide-hotlines. So if you are having feelings like that, if it's, related to being transgender, or if it's related to pretty much anything else, please make sure you reach out and get help. Thank you so much for sharing everything that you've shared with us so far. We have had so much to talk about today that we decided we were going to split it up into 2 videos. So that way it'll be in 2 a little bit easier chunks for everybody to go through. So we'll both see you in the next video. See you then.